You are defending beliefs that were never yours to begin with. You carry the weight of opinions, traditions, and rules that were quietly installed in your mind before you even had the chance to protect yourself. Your mind is the most valuable asset you possess, yet since the day you were born, it has been relentlessly targeted and programmed by external forces. Society, tradition, the media, and self-proclaimed experts have downloaded their software into your brain without your permission. And the deepest pain you feel right now, that quiet sense of being lost, that lingering frustration, comes from living a life built on a foundation of someone else's lies. You have become a container for other people's expectations. Today, we put an end to this invisible slavery. I will not tell you what to think. Instead, I will give you the exact tools to learn how to think. We are going to run a mental antivirus, isolating the corrupted files that keep you obedient and weak. You will stop being a passive receiver of foreign ideas and become the ruthless architect of your own judgment. Prepare for the deprogramming. Imagine your mind as a pristine computer system that came with software pre-installed by your parents, your culture, and your early education. The devastating truth is that most people live their entire lives running this factory default program. They never stop to question if the code is actually beneficial, if it is horribly outdated, or if it actively destroys their potential. Your very first task is a bitter pill to swallow. You must accept that the majority of your deepest convictions do not belong to you. When you operate on someone else's code, you experience a profound crisis of identity. You make career choices based on what society deems respectable, and you endure miserable relationships because tradition dictates you should settle. The emotional cost is a silent, suffocating emptiness. You look in the mirror and realize you are merely a puppet acting out a script written by dead generations and modern manipulators. Your authentic self is buried beneath layers of conditioned responses. To break this cycle, you must become a ruthless auditor of your own thoughts. Start viewing every belief as a mere application running in your brain. If an application drains your energy, causes unnecessary suffering, or limits your freedom, you must uninstall it without hesitation. Take back the administrative rights to your mind, rebuild your internal operating system from the ground up, selecting only the truths that serve your ultimate growth and unyielding self-respect. There's a phrase that has destroyed more dreams and potential than any other in human history. It has always been done this way. Tradition is nothing more than the peer pressure of dead people. We are socially conditioned to believe that if a practice has survived for centuries, it inherently holds immense value and unquestionable morality. But longevity does not equal validity. Just because something has been done for generations does not make it right. It often just makes it dangerously obsolete. Clinging to outdated traditions paralyzes your evolution. You see it in families that pass down toxic behaviors as if they were sacred heirlooms. You feel the heavy chains of cultural expectations forcing you into a life path you secretly despise. The emotional toll is immense. You live in a constant state of low-grade anxiety, terrified of disappointing ghosts from the past. By honoring the dead, you are slowly suffocating your own life. You sacrifice your present on the altar of their past. It is time to sever the invisible chains of ancestral guilt. Look at every tradition with cold, calculated scrutiny. Ask yourself one simple question. Does this practice serve my reality today? If a tradition brings genuine value, keep it. But if it only brings guilt, limitation, and stagnation, burn it down. Have the audacity to be the one who breaks the generational curse. Your loyalty must belong to your own future, not to the unquestioned habits of people who no longer exist. There is a fatal flaw in human psychology that equates popularity with truth. We blindly assume that if millions of people believe something, it must be correct. But the harsh reality is that the masses do not think, they merely echo. The majority is often lazy, frightened, and desperately seeking the comfort of conformity. Using the collective opinion of the crowd as your moral and intellectual compass is the fastest, most guaranteed route to a life of utter mediocrity and regret. When you blend into the herd, you lose the sharp edges that make you formidable. You silence your own brilliant intuitions because they threaten the group's fragile consensus. The consequence is a slow death of your individuality. You find yourself nodding along to foolish ideas in boardrooms or laughing at empty jokes to maintain social status. The emotional cost is a deep, agonizing loss of self-respect. You trade your authentic voice for the fleeting hollow warmth of fitting in. True power requires the absolute willingness to stand entirely alone. You must train yourself to feel comfortable, even energized by being the outcast when the crowd is wrong. The courage to hold an unpopular opinion is the ultimate marker of mental fortitude. Stop looking left and right to see what everyone else is doing. Look inward and look at the brutal facts. Forge your own path, even if you must walk it in complete solitude. Solitude is the price of sovereignty. We are trained from childhood to bow before titles, credentials, and the so-called wise figures of the past. While respecting ancient wisdom can provide a foundation, blindly worshiping it is the mark of a weak mind. We surrender our critical thinking the moment a philosopher or a modern expert makes a claim. But you must remember that these figures, no matter how revered, lived in entirely different contexts. Their words were born from their unique struggles, not universal laws. The danger of deferring to authority is that you outsource your own judgment. When your life falls apart, you eagerly search for a quote from an ancient leader or a best-selling author to save you. This mental dependency creates a fragile character. You become terrified of making decisions without the validation of an external expert. The pain hits when you realize their generic advice does not fix your deeply personal chaos. You are left stranded, betrayed by the gurus you idolized. Treat the wisdom of others as raw material, never as a finished product. Read their words, understand their frameworks, but run them aggressively through the machinery of your own life. Use their insights as inspiration to sharpen your blade, not as a shield to hide behind. You are the ultimate authority of your own existence. Cultivate a mind so sharp and discerning that it respects brilliance, but absolutely refuses to kneel before it. Your life requires your own bespoke philosophy. The most insidious enemy of truth is not the society around you, it is the mind within you. We often fall into the trap of trusting our own brilliant ideas, especially those sudden bursts of inspiration that feel like profound revelations. But human psychology is wired for self-deception. Frequently, your mind is simply projecting what you desperately want to believe. It feeds you comforting illusions that perfectly confirm your pre-existing biases and protect your fragile ego. When you blindly trust your own unchecked thoughts, you construct a reality based on arrogance. You make impulsive, catastrophic decisions because a thought felt undeniably right in the moment. The emotional devastation arrives when reality crashes into your imagination. Businesses fail, relationships crumble, and you are left wondering how your flawless intuition betrayed you so completely. The cost of unchecked self-belief is a life built on a fragile foundation of comforting delusions. To achieve true mastery, you must become deeply skeptical of yourself. Challenge your own epiphanies. When a thought feels too convenient or too perfectly aligned with your desires, treat it as a suspect in an interrogation. Demand proof from your own brain. Is this a fundamental truth or just a psychological defense mechanism? By ruthlessly auditing your own imagination, you strip away the comforting lies and build a mind anchored in cold, unbreakable reality. No text contains absolute truth, regardless of how sacred or celebrated it is considered by the masses. A book is simply a collection of ideas written by a flawed human being in a specific moment in time. Reading is fundamentally necessary, but reading to blindly absorb information is intellectual suicide. You are treating paper and ink as an infallible god, forgetting the human error behind the words. When you treat books as unquestionable doctrine, you stop thinking and start memorizing. You become a parrot repeating profound quotes to sound intelligent, while internally you remain entirely hollow. The emotional damage happens when life presents a complex problem that the book never covered. You freeze, entirely helpless, because your mind was trained to follow instructions rather than to navigate chaos. Change your relationship with the written word immediately. Read aggressively to challenge and to deconstruct the author's arguments. Tear the concepts apart and see if they survive the friction of your own reality. Use books as whetstones to sharpen your own critical thinking, never as a substitute for it. Your mind must be the supreme judge of what enters your internal library. Do not let dead authors dictate your living choices. The moment you stop thinking and hand that responsibility to an expert, an influencer, or a spiritual guide, you voluntarily become a mental slave. Society conditions you to seek a savior, someone who has all the answers neatly packaged for your consumption. This is a brilliant trap designed to strip you of your sovereignty. No human being on this earth deserves to hold the steering wheel of your judgment. The cost of surrendering your power is devastating. You become entirely dependent on their validation, terrified to take a step without their approval. When the guru inevitably falls, or when their generic formula destroys your specific life, the betrayal shatters your confidence. You are left empty, realizing you traded your own intuition for a comforting illusion sold by someone who never truly knew you. Reclaim your authority with cold detachment. Listen to everyone who has achieved what you desire, but never offer them blind devotion. Extract their tactics, observe their frameworks, and discard anything that does not serve your individual path. You are the only guru your life actually needs. Maintain an unbreakable boundary between their advice and your final decision. Your autonomy is non-negotiable. Cynicism is the refuge of a defeated mind, but active skepticism is the shield of a master. The cynic believes in nothing and remains stagnant in bitterness. The active skeptic simply refuses to believe anything by default. This is the mental antivirus you must install today. It is a state of perpetual vigilance, ensuring that no belief, no matter how attractive, enters your system without passing a rigorous test. Living without this defensive filter leaves your mind dangerously exposed. You absorb the fears of the media, the insecurities of your peers, and the false promises of marketers. Your brain becomes a toxic landfill of unverified information. This constant influx of garbage creates a baseline of anxiety and confusion. You feel perpetually overwhelmed because your mental operating system is overloaded with malware. Activate your defenses by demanding proof for every single claim presented to you. When society tells you a specific path is necessary for happiness, demand the evidence. Look for the hidden motives behind the information people feed you. Questioning everything is not an act of hostility, it is the ultimate act of self-preservation. A mind protected by active skepticism remains calm, clear, and unshakable. The only truth you can confidently rely on is the one you have dragged through the brutal laboratory of your own life. Theories sound perfect in sterile environments, but reality is chaotic and unforgiving. Beliefs are completely worthless until they are tested against the friction of the real world. You must stop trusting the map drawn by others and start walking the actual territory with your own 2 feet. Relying entirely on untested theories makes you incredibly fragile. You build a false sense of competence based on what you have read or heard, rather than what you have survived. When a real crisis strikes, your theoretical knowledge evaporates instantly, leaving you paralyzed by panic. The pain of realizing you are completely unprepared for life is sharp and unforgiving. You are a warrior who has never seen battle. Commit to a life of rigorous experimentation. If someone claims a certain habit will forge discipline, do not merely agree with them. Execute it for 30 days and document the results. Treat your existence as an ongoing scientific study. The confidence you gain from surviving and testing your own reality is bulletproof. Nobody can take away a truth that is permanently scarred into your own lived experience. Raw experience is a powerful teacher, but it is entirely useless if it remains unanalyzed. Once you have lived through an event, you must subject it to the cold, surgical blade of your own logic. Many people experience profound events but learn absolutely the wrong lesson because they let raw emotion dictate the conclusion. Reason is the mechanism that extracts actual wisdom from the chaos of your daily survival. Allowing emotion to interpret your experiences leads to a cycle of repeated failures. You get hurt in a relationship and conclude that everyone is deceitful, rather than analyzing your own poor selection process. This emotional reasoning traps you in a state of permanent victimhood. You suffer immensely, yet you never evolve, because your brain refuses to look at the cold, hard data of your own mistakes. Detach from your feelings and become a brutally honest observer of your own life. Ask yourself why things happened the way they did, without protecting your ego. Does your conclusion actually make logical sense? Does it hold up under intense scrutiny? By forcing every experience through the filter of pure reason, you eliminate the emotional noise. You construct a mind that operates with deadly, silent precision. Even after an idea survives the brutal tests of experience and logic, it must face one final, unforgiving filter: your core principles. A concept can be highly effective, perfectly rational, and completely proven in the real world, yet still be entirely wrong for you. This is where you establish the boundary between mere intelligence and true integrity. Compromising your internal code for a logical or profitable outcome destroys you from the inside out. You might win the negotiation, secure the status, or gain the upper hand, but the emotional cost is a sickening loss of self-worth. You look at your achievements and feel nothing but disgust, because you know you sold a piece of your identity to acquire them. Anchor yourself to an immovable set of laws that dictate who you are. Let this internal judge hold the absolute power to veto any action, no matter how attractive the reward. When you operate strictly within your own defined principles, you develop a terrifying level of self-respect. You become a person who cannot be bought, manipulated, or swayed. Rebuilding a compromised mind requires the absolute elimination of noise. You cannot rewrite your internal operating system while remaining connected to the chaotic frequency of the modern world. The constant barrage of notifications, opinions, and manufactured outrage is designed to keep you distracted, preventing you from doing the deep, necessary work of self-examination. Most people are utterly terrified of silence. Without the constant hum of media or the distraction of shallow conversations, they are forced to finally hear their own thoughts. They realize how empty their internal world has become. To avoid this agonizing confrontation, they drown themselves in cheap dopamine, running endlessly from the quiet void within. Force yourself into isolation. Sit in an empty room, walk in the dark, and endure the initial discomfort of disconnection. Let the withdrawal from external validation wash over you until the panic subsides. In that profound, unbroken silence, the foreign voices will finally fade, and your authentic voice will begin to speak. Guard this silence. It is the laboratory of your reconstruction. Your ego is a desperate defense mechanism, built solely to protect your outdated programming. It is the invisible wall that prevents you from seeing your own catastrophic flaws. The ego thrives on the illusion of being right, convincing you that your current state is flawless and that the rest of the world is to blame for your quiet misery. Clinging to a fragile ego makes you chronically defensive and completely unteachable. Every piece of constructive feedback feels like a mortal attack on your identity. You argue to defend broken systems, driving away the very people who attempt to help you. The result is a life of stagnation, trapped in a self-imposed prison of arrogance and repetitive failure. You must intentionally execute the need to be right. Embrace the sharp, momentary humiliation of being completely wrong, because the destruction of your ego is the exact moment your real education begins. View your past ignorance not with shame, but with cold detachment. When you no longer care about protecting a false image, you become dangerous, adaptable, and free. Once you strip away the lies, the traditions, and the borrowed opinions, you are left staring at a terrifying blank slate. You have uninstalled the malware, but now the system is empty. This is the crucible of your transformation. You must now write the new code of your existence, line by line, forging beliefs based entirely on the brutal reality you have personally verified. The temptation to revert to your old, comfortable programming will be immense. Living authentically in a world of copies feels isolating and exhausting. You will undoubtedly lose friends and distance yourself from family members who preferred the obedient, predictable version of you. The grief of outgrowing your environment is a heavy, silent burden you must carry alone. Let them go without resentment. The empty space they leave behind is a mandatory requirement for your evolution. Write your new laws with unapologetic conviction and build your life firmly upon them. Understand that this new architecture will attract a different caliber of reality. Stand tall in the framework you have built and guard your new boundaries with absolute ruthlessness. A fortified mind is not a rigid one. The ultimate hallmark of extreme intelligence is the ability to completely change your stance when presented with new verified evidence. Mental sovereignty is not about stubbornly defending a position. It is about maintaining a relentless, unyielding loyalty to the truth, regardless of where it leads or how inconvenient it becomes. Stubbornness is frequently mistaken for strength. Men destroy their lives by sticking to a failing plan, a dead relationship, or a broken ideology simply to save face. They would rather sink with a burning ship than admit they misread the map. This refusal to pivot guarantees eventual ruin. The world moves forward, and the rigid man shatters under the pressure of his own pride. Your attention is the most valuable currency you possess, infinitely more precious than money or time. You have finally stopped handing it out to people, algorithms, and platforms that offer nothing but outrage and shallow distraction. You recognize that whatever you focus on multiplies in your life. By starving the useless noise of your attention, you actively destroy its power over you. You are no longer a consumer of endless chaos. You are an investor of profound focus. People trapped in their factory programming squander this vital energy every single day. They bleed their mental focus into a void of celebrity drama, political theater, and artificial arguments, leaving them completely exhausted when it comes time to build their own lives. The tragedy is that they feel actively engaged with the world, while in reality, they are being harvested. They are voluntarily financing their own mental enslavement with the currency of their attention. Direct your focus with the merciless precision of a laser. You must treat your attention as a finite, sacred resource. Invest it solely in pursuits that build your physical empire, forge your iron character, or bring genuine, unshakable peace to your soul. When you withdraw your energy from the circus ceases to exist in your reality. You take back the pen, and you begin writing the final chapters of your life with absolute, undistracted clarity. Ultimate power resides in the invisible gap between a stimulus and your reaction. You no longer allow external events or aggressive individuals to trigger an automatic, unthinking explosion of emotion. You have inserted a crucial pause into your internal machinery. In that silent second, you strip the event of its emotional charge and look at the bare mechanics of what is happening. You decide how to respond, rather than letting your primitive instincts decide for you. The weak are effortlessly provoked. They live as emotional reactionaries, constantly jerked around by the invisible strings of other people's behavior. A single insult from a stranger or a minor inconvenience in traffic can completely derail their state of mind, proving they have absolutely zero control over their own vessel. The pain of this existence is living as a perpetual victim, always at the mercy of the next unpredictable wave of external circumstances. When the world attempts to shake you, meet it with a terrifying, calculated calmness. Let people exhaust themselves throwing emotional punches that land on nothing but air. You dictate the energetic weather of your environment. You are the immovable object against which their chaotic force shatters. By mastering your reaction, you conquer not just your own mind, but you subtly assert dominance over any room you walk into. Silence is your sharpest weapon. True mental freedom is not a carefree, weightless existence. It is a heavy, immense responsibility. You have successfully shattered the chains of traditional programming, but now you must carry the absolute weight of your own autonomous choices. There is no longer a comforting authority figure to blame when things go wrong. You have demanded the steering wheel of your life, and with it comes the unyielding pressure of navigating the treacherous road ahead entirely alone, without gurus, traditions, or societal expectations to act as a safety net. Every failure rests squarely and exclusively on your shoulders. It is a profoundly lonely burden. The stark, uncompromising reality of this extreme ownership terrifies the fragile masses, which is precisely why they rush back to the comfort of their mental cages. The pain of freedom is the realization that if your life falls into ruin, you are the only architect of that destruction. Embrace the crushing weight of this total accountability. The immense pressure of owning every single outcome is exactly the environment required to forge an unbreakable spirit. It is the heavy price of true mastery, and you must pay it gladly. Let the responsibility shape you into someone unrecognizable. You are no longer a passenger hoping for a safe arrival. You are the captain who accepts that the survival of the ship depends entirely on his own competence. You are no longer a passive participant surviving in a reality designed by others. You have seized the administrative controls of your existence by filtering every input, dismantling your ego, and relying only on verified experience. You are now actively bending the trajectory of your own life. The deprogramming is complete. You have transformed from a predictable, programmable machine into a living, breathing force of independent will. The people around you will inevitably sense this fundamental shift in your nature. They will feel an undeniable quiet gravity radiating from your presence. Those who are still asleep will be intimidated by your stillness, while those who are awakening will be drawn to your clarity. You no longer need to announce your strength. It is evident in the way you stand, the way you observe, and the unapologetic way you draw boundaries around your energy. Walk through the remainder of your life with the silent, dangerous confidence of a man who owns his own mind. Let the world burn with its petty arguments and manufactured panics. You remain untouchable, watching from the fortress you built with your own hands. You are the architect, the author, and the absolute sovereign of your destiny. Maintain the watch, defend the perimeter, and never surrender the throne of your mind again. You survived the brutal friction of the deprogramming. The world desperately wanted you to remain weak, compliant, and predictable. They offered you the warm, comfortable illusion of fitting in, hoping you would never discover the terrifying power dormant inside your skull. But you rejected the software. You uninstalled their lies, tore down the fragile foundations of tradition, and built an impenetrable fortress of absolute self-reliance. The path ahead of you is solitary, quiet, and infinitely powerful. Never again will you surrender your judgment to the loudest voice in the room. Never again will you betray your internal code for the cheap validation of the crowd. You have done the dark, unglamorous work of meeting yourself in the silence, and you have emerged as the sole owner of your reality. The ultimate truth is this: no one is coming to save you, but as of today, you no longer need them to. If this frequency resonates with the life you are actively building, and if you're ready to continue walking the unforgiving path of the sovereign mind, stay with us. Subscribe to the channel. The real journey is just beginning.